The man who played television's biggest coward had photographed the ruins of World War II before he ever stepped on a stage. The child who played an orphan boy searching for home grew up to become the subject of his sister's most devastating public revelation. And the actor who terrorized the crew every week on an alien planet spent 9 years healing children as the most trusted doctor. This is what really happened to the cast of Land of the Giants. Let's start with a man who built something far more unusual once the cameras stopped. Gary Conway stepped into the uniform of Captain Steve Burton as a seasoned contract player, already famous for his work on Burke's Law. Audiences saw a square-jawed television hero effortlessly navigating giant special effects. But off-screen, Conway was an accomplished artist who studied fine art at the University of California. The rigid schedules of a television set often conflicted with his desire for tactile, creative expression. By 1985, long after the spaceship sets were dismantled, he and his wife Marion McKnight, a former Miss America, were standing in the dusty soil of Paso Robles, California, transforming an undeveloped plot of land into a fully operational commercial vineyard. He worked the earth with heavy iron pruning shears under the hot sun. He spent decades building this wine estate before eventually selling the property in 2019. In later interviews, those close to him said he found a deep sense of peace in agriculture that the studio system could never provide. In 2026, Conway is 90 years old, living privately with his family after a life defined by complete artistic reinvention. While the captain was charting his escape into the soil, someone else from the cast was navigating a very different kind of crossroads. She epitomized the wealthy, sophisticated heiress stranded in a terrifying landscape. Yet her real Hollywood path was a series of hard choices. Deanna Lund played Valerie Ames Scott with an energetic determination that caught the eye of top directors. Before stepping onto the massive Irwin Allen sets, she faced a massive career divergence. Roman Polanski personally offered her a key role in Rosemary's Baby, but studio management refused to guarantee she would finish filming before her science fiction contract commenced. Forced to decline a horror masterpiece, she found herself trapped in oversized prop giant cages instead. Her personal life became deeply intertwined with the show when she married her co-star, Don Matheson, in 1970. Though they eventually divorced a decade later, their daughter, Michelle Matheson, became an actress and novelist. On June 22, 2018, Lund died at her Century City home at 81 years old, following a quiet battle with pancreatic cancer. But while she found romance and challenges within the crew, another cast member carried a hidden past that completely redefined his rugged on-screen persona. He brought a brilliant, theatrical comedy to the screen as the greedy, on-the-run bank robber Alexander Fitzhugh. But his early life was shaped by historical forces far grander than any television plot. Kurt Kasznar was born Kurt Servischer to a Jewish family in Vienna. Long before he ever stood on an American soundstage, his world fractured when his father left, forcing his mother to remarry a local restaurant owner whose surname he eventually adopted. He fled Europe as a young man, escaping the rising tide of conflict just before his homeland was completely altered. In America, he built a major reputation on the Broadway stage, originating the iconic role of Max Detweiler in the original 1959 production of The Sound of Music. Audiences watched him play a cowardly buffoon weekly on television, completely unaware that they were witnessing a classically trained theater powerhouse. He commanded the stage under blazing Broadway lights alongside legends, yet found financial security late in life inside a science fiction sandbox. On August 6, 1979, just a week before his 66th birthday, Kasznar died of cancer in Santa Monica, California, leaving no immediate survivors. Don Matheson brought an intense, hot-tempered gravity to the screen as the cynical businessman Mark Wilson, but his off-screen life was grounded in genuine, real-world danger. He was not a product of the Hollywood studio machine. He was a hardened veteran who served 6 years in the military. While deployed in the Korean War, he was awarded the Bronze Star for valorous leadership and a Purple Heart after surviving a catastrophic explosion. Following his military service, he walked the tough streets of Michigan as an undercover Detroit narcotics detective, facing actual criminals long before dealing with giants. Audiences saw a fictional executive arguing over survival strategies, entirely unaware that the actor had stared down real situations. On set, he was known for his athletic capability, frequently performing grueling physical stunts like climbing ropes or tumbling from oversized specimen jars. His marriage to co-star Deanna Lund ended in divorce, but their daughter later said the two remained extremely close, living near each other for decades and staying in frequent contact. On June 29, 2014, Matheson died in his sleep at his daughter's home in Woodland Hills, California, at 84 years old after a 10-month battle with lung cancer. Stefan Arngrim was 12 years old when Land of the Giants premiered. He played Barry Lockridge, the recently orphaned boy traveling with his dog Chipper, a character written to embody innocence and the specific vulnerability of a child who had already lost everything. The audience watched him for 2 seasons and assumed they were watching a normal kid doing a TV show. His father was Thor Arngrim, a talent agent and former theater actor. His mother was Norma McMillan, the voice actress behind Gumby. His younger sister Allison became Nellie Olson on Little House on the Prairie. In 2004, Allison disclosed publicly on Larry King Live that she was an incest survivor. In her 2010 memoir, she detailed the abuse, alleging Stefan had sexually abused her repeatedly throughout their childhood, beginning when he was in his early teens. She stated that when she addressed it with him as an adult, he did not deny it. The two have had no relationship since. Stefan Arngrim has rarely addressed the allegations directly in public. Stefan Arngrim is 70 years old in 2026. The orphan searching for home turned out to have the most complicated household of anyone on the Spindrift. He broke immense ground as the capable, authoritative co-pilot Dan Erickson, anchoring the crew with quiet strength, but his off-screen career was dedicated to breaking down systemic Hollywood barriers. Don Marshall was a stellar collegiate athlete and a competitive pole vaulter before discovering his passion for theater arts. Long before joining the Spindrift crew, he stood in front of cameras opposite Nichelle Nichols in a historic 1964 movie about racial integration called Great Gettin' Up Mornin'. Audiences saw an expert co-pilot managing technical crises, while in reality, Marshall was navigating an industry that rarely offered prominent, non-stereotypical roles to black actors. He broke major science fiction ground, guest starring as Lieutenant Boma on Star Trek before securing a full-series regular contract on Land of the Giants. Over time, he grew into a powerful voice behind the camera, providing strategic consultation on racial representation issues within the entertainment industry. He later received an award for outstanding achievement as a Black achiever in the United States, honoring his long-term dedication to structural change. On October 30, 2016, Marshall died peacefully at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles at 80 years old. She brought a gentle charm to the ship's cabin as the flight attendant, Betty Ann Hamilton. But her path to the giant planet began with vocal harmonies, not science fiction. Heather Young began her career singing in a musical trio at Disneyland and touring with university performance groups. She was signed to a direct contract with 20th Century Fox, meaning she was placed into Irwin Allen's productions primarily because she was an available contract artist. Audiences saw a diligent crew member assisting the survivors, but the writers frequently left her character with very few active lines or significant tasks. The lack of screen time was directly addressed by her co-star, Don Matheson, who generously handed over several of his own script lines to ensure she had more presence in the finished episodes. In 2026, Young is 81 years old, living privately under her married name. He struck terror into the hearts of the stranded crew as the relentless, cold-hearted Special Bureau investigator Inspector Kobik, but his most famous television legacy was completely opposite in tone. Kevin Hagen brought a chilling authority to the sci-fi series as a recurring antagonist, tracking the little people with ruthless precision. Audiences saw an unyielding lawman operating in a hostile world. But over time, Hagen became a deeply comforting household presence when he was cast as the kindly, compassionate Dr. Hiram Baker on Little House on the Prairie. He spent 9 seasons delivering babies and patching up injuries in Walnut Grove, completely rewriting his public image from a sci-fi villain into a figure of pure TV warmth. On July 9, 2005, Hagen died at his home in Oregon at 77 years old, following a serious diagnosis of esophageal cancer. The Spindrift never made it home, The people aboard it landed in every direction. Some in loss, some in reinvention, some in a privacy the industry rarely permits. They spent 2 seasons insisting the small could survive in a world built for giants. Most of them proved it,